Hello and welcome to Phoenix Cinema Podcast. I am Chris Austin, and joining me again is fellow film geek Luke Parker.
Thanks so much for having me back, Chris.
Thanks for coming back. And also joining again is the man, the myth, the legend, Tad Cooley. Welcome back.
Hello, my friend. Excited to be here.
Yes, excited to have you. Excited to have you both. So, Tad and Luke are here with me today to discuss the classic. Is it a classic? I'm sure it's considered a classic.
I think by now this can be considered a classic.
Right,
it feels like a classic.
Yeah.
Like immediately watching it, it's like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't see this.
The classic 1984 Cannes Palme d'Or winning movie, Paris, Texas, directed by Wim Wenders. Phoenix is screening this movie as part of the film's 40th anniversary. Luke, I'm sure you are, but Tad, are you familiar at all with Wim Wenders as a filmmaker?
Not really.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Oh, I love it. What ringtone is that? Why does that sound familiar to me?
That's an alarm for me to get ready for work today.
Oh shit! So I'm gonna make you late.
No, it's okay. I forgot to turn off the alarm because I'm not working today.
That's all right. That's okay. You just blame the Phoenix Cinema Podcast, man. Talking about Wim Wenders, I'll describe my Wenders journey. So I've mentioned this already, but the first film, so he's a German filmmaker, right? So the first film that I saw of his was Wings of Desire. Luke, you came to the
same
right?
screening, yeah.
Yes, and was that the first time you saw that movie as well?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Remind me of your thoughts when you left.
I struggled. I struggled a lot. I remember there being a lot of clock watching during that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think because of that, I've seen Paris, Texas a couple of times now. But first time going into it, I was like, my expectations were quite low just because of how I responded to Wings of Desire. But
right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember. I know there were two people. I think it was Nathaniel and Leone who raved it. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The rest of us were struggling. Yeah. And I remember I walked out of the screening because I needed to use the toilet, but I really didn't want to go back. but no one else left either, so I had to sort of come back into the screen. However, earlier on this year, Tad, I watched this movie Perfect Days, which came out just a few months ago. We discussed it on the podcast. It's one of my favorite films that I've seen this year, and it's directed by Wim Wenders. It's a Japanese movie, filmed in Japan, Japanese cast, and it's beautiful. And so because of that, because I love the movie so much, I was like, I really want to see a bit more of Wenders' work, and because he's got a deep filmography. Maybe I'll even rewatch Rings of Desire, I don't know, or the American remake. What was it called? City of Angels, I think. Nicholas Cage and Meg Ryan. So I was very curious about this film, and watching it. I'll let you two lead off. Tad, what did you think of this film?
Well, immediately from the beginning, I was kind of taken aback because I was thinking about the time of which it came out and what might have inspired this film. It feels, especially in the beginning, very French New Wave when you watch sort of a bunch of silence and this man walking in the desert and the brother and all this. And then I was thinking, just years later, you're going to see Blood Simple. You're going to see Coen Brothers films that very much coincide with this sort of tone of this desolate Texas landscape. But then through watching the film, it's almost like it cuts through different genres. And it goes from this to, it almost feels to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but because I feel like this film just creates its own rules, but it just oh, we're in Los Angeles and things are different. And like, you know, there's the family and the kid, and it just like throws you right in. There's not like a whole lot of build up to some specific things, which like caught me off guard. And then I was like, okay, I'm up for the ride. Harry Dean Stanton, phenomenal job. I want to say this too. Before I get to, and you know, all of us get more into this movie. Okay, what I also do, and I pride and I love, I really do enjoy what I do alongside being an actor. Through the COVID times, I started working in production because most of my acting career is theater, and I was like, oh gosh, are we going to have theater again? I didn't know. So I went into production work, working as a production assistant, just in the bottom level of, you know, your standard film crew. And through that, because I learned, oh, if you're just good at networking and you work really hard and put a smile on your face, there's likely going to be people wanting to hire you again. And I worked my way up to being a location manager of what we call it here in the States. So basically, I go and scout areas, and I do all the logistics and I have to know every single department. And so there's a reason why I'm saying all this. Whenever you look, because Amber, my fiance, and I'm sure you guys do too, we always watch the credits because we're always like, hey, who do we know that's worked on us? But we watch the credits, and there is essentially the most bare bones crew you could imagine.
Right.
Which blows my mind because every single shot is beautifully set up with practicals, with mood lighting. There's so much storytelling with color throughout the freaking thing, all the way through. And I was just aghast that there was a key grip, a best boy, a gaffer, electrician. These are just department heads. You're supposed to have like 4 people to each department head. No, it's just them.
That's crazy.
And then they had like 2 or 3 PAs that I'm sure were helping them schlep around stuff. But it was fantastic to see that, because it just tells me that there's so much focus nowadays in this modern era of you need to make everything CGI and make giant trusts and all the pictures you see of the making of Dune, which, you know, there are things that are necessary. But you can also tell a story with bare bones, with a beautiful film camera, with an old, beautiful, beautifully created lens package, and just set the light in the right angle and get the sun in the right place, and you got it.
Yeah,
and they nailed it.
And just tell a fucking good story with good actors. That's it. Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I only saw today in really sort of looking into the movie. It was only shot in 4 to 5 weeks, and yeah, it was a 4 to 5 weeks with a small group only working the last weeks. I think like they lost people, and not only that, there was a break in shooting because the script was incomplete. And you don't sense that disjointedness whatsoever. It's also amazing that, did you know that there's a filmmaker, Alison Anders? She's a big independent filmmaker. She was a production assistant on the film. Claire Denis, who I'm sure we know, the French independent filmmaker, she was the assistant director. And you really sense that focus and that quality behind the scenes, because yeah, you can tell it's bare bones and yet still quite really strong.
Everything is so well orchestrated, and I think it's quite interesting you saying that the crew was literally the bare minimum, because especially towards the start of the film, and you think of some of the shots, and for example, how there were like trains going past in the background, just like perfectly timed. Like so much really has gone into this. So the fact that, you know, it's really the bare minimum in terms of manpower. I think it's quite impressive.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely impressive. And, it's impressive in the sense that, okay, you read about it after the fact and you're like, what? There's no way. The movie should stand on its own terms. And it certainly does. But yeah, even more impressive after the fact when you look into the filmmaking of it. And yeah, like you said, Tad, the use of color. I mean, the cinematography is amazing, but it is green and red splashed all over the movie. I mean, it's such an interesting choice, but it makes it really pop, right?
Yeah.
And speaking to what you were saying as well, Tad, it's so interesting because I didn't know anything about the movie whatsoever. I didn't even know the plot. So watching it, you just see a guy walking through a desert. Okay, where the movie goes, fair enough, just within the first half hour, but even by the end of the film, you're just kind of like, okay, you're right. You have to sort of give yourself over to the movie, not expect anything in a genre sense, and it just is its own thing. And when you give yourself to the movie, it can be quite powerful and quite beautiful in moments.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and I think the film really goes against the grain in a lot of aspects, and I think on the surface level, this film is incredibly empty. It's very thin on dialogue at points. It's very, very thin on plot, at least to what we're used to, compared to what we're used to these days. It's very thin on any like exposition or any explanation. And then it hits you with this third act, which is just so beautiful and intimate. Not in just like how poetic it is, like with the dialogue, but also with how it's shot. And I think even though in the beginning of the film we're exposed to all these, big sweeping shots of the Mojave Desert, is really the cinematography and how the film looks. It really reaches its peak, and it's most beautiful at the end when they're really making use of the really vivid color palette and really intimate filmmaking.
Yeah, that's what gives it its scope and its feel of like epicness and grandness. Yeah, for sure. For ultimately what is essentially is just such a small human story.
Yeah, totally.
I was thinking as well, they could have called this movie Bad Parenting, and it would probably be a better title.
Yeah.
The bit that really strikes me is when he sends his kid at the bank, to the other side of the bank to just sit on this wall. And, we can assume they are there for hours. For hours, the kid falls asleep. He falls asleep behind the wheel of his truck. No one are there no CCTV cameras, or no one's like checking on the welfare of this child that has passed out outside the bank? It was
the 80s, man. It was a different time.
Yeah. I mean, it dates the time appropriately, because now we'll text each other. You can keep it. I guess they took a nap because of boredom, which is something we don't know how to experience anymore. But it's also true. What came in my mind was like, hey guys, you're hold on, why are you both like sleeping right now? Aren't you trying to see your mother? Is that not like, what if you were at a concert? Would that be more entertaining, or would you be sleeping?
Yeah.
There were some moments like that, but it does make it, it gives you more of the chase, and you want to find the car. The driving sequence where they see the red car, and then there's two, the same red car. I mean, absolutely incredibly brilliant. I guess I'll just say it. The scene at the end, I won't give away, are we doing full spoilers? How does this?
Do you know what? Usually we don't. But this is a difficult one because this is from 1984. I feel like, not really. If no one's seen it, we kind of want to hype the movie up and give someone a chance to watch it but
What I'll say is, whenever, if whoever's listening to this, which I do implore you to watch this movie. There's a moment, and you'll understand what I mean once you arrive to it. But now thinking about the practicality of the entire movie and its filming, the use of the tinted window and shining the light towards him and her turning off the light was very. And I'm just almost wondering, like, was this pre-planned or did they figure this out? Because there's no way they used this actual type of place. They had to have built it out, I would guess. But, you know, but that was so brilliant. It kind of reminds me of Blanche looking in the mirror in Streetcar, of her facing him. And yeah, without giving much more away than what I just said, it was absolutely, and it was from a lot of the scenes are rather quick to cut to the next thing at certain times, but that area of the film, it just stayed there for so long. But it made sense in their weird rule bending way.
Absolutely. It's funny because I mean, I probably think it's the most fascinating part of the film. And so, just for a bit of context, right? So you've got this guy who is looking for his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And, he's sort of walked away from his family. He's walked away from his son, his young son, and his wife for reasons unknown. And then you find out throughout the course of the movie, he reunites with his son via his brother, who's been looking after him. And then they go on this journey to find the mum. And they find her in this... What guys, what is it? I mean, it's kind of like a...
It's like a peep show kind of thing.
A peep show vibe, almost like a brothel type thing. But, and I have to say, this is where the moment of the film where I truly leaned in, because the production design, the set design, what you were saying, you text me a while ago, Tad, with some questions. And you're saying, what is this place? What is with, you go into these rooms, these curtains, and you sit in front of this, one-way sort of mirror, but they are all themed. The locations behind each mirror themed. So it's like, it's a beach, or it's a hotel room, or it's a diner, or it's like a doctor's office. And these women have to walk in dressed appropriately in character, and then I guess do whatever they're told or asked to do from the other side of the window. And to find this character in this situation, and then to try and communicate with her via this one-way mirror was just, it was astounding in terms of character work and, again, human connection. It was like, what is going on here? Also, can I say they need more security? There needs to be a better system in place, because he can walk out of a curtain and then just slip into another curtain. Surely you got to pay for that, my friend. Who's taking, you can't just go in there and buzz someone up. That needs to be properly regulated. But anyway,
again, it was the 80s, Chris, different time.
Yeah, they definitely needed some Ring cameras back then. And also, I do. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, our two main, our characters, husband and wife, they talk to each other for such a long time at the end. How did no one pop in and go, guys, what's actually going on here?
I'll say it. Yeah. I'll say it plainly on the, so I watched this movie, 2-3 weeks ago now. And I'm working on this show, which I don't think I'm able to name, but it's an American large American talent show, if you can imagine what that might be. And
the X Factor in the UK, something like that.
Yeah, and we're trying to figure out schedules because you had things and I had things because of that Great American Talent Show, and and I was saying like, tomorrow I'm gonna ask the host, hey, have you seen American in Paris? Hey, what's that room about? And you messaged me back. You're like, Tad texted me the next day, hey, I'm available to talk today because I'm fired.
Yeah. You just bombard it's in your head, right? You need to get it out. Yeah. What did you guys think? I will say this: I wasn't a big fan of the score by Wright.
Strong disagree. Strong disagree.
Really?
I think the score's pretty perfect. I think it adds that atmospheric twang to the film. I do agree it's repetitive. Like, it's literally the one motif they play throughout the film, but I think it's great.
Okay, twang is right, because it was like, it's just that brown, it's like I felt like Breaking Bad was about to start, But I don't know. It rubbed off on me, but
Okay, interesting. No, I really liked it.
interesting. Okay.
I would have liked a little bit more of a diversity. I agree, but I did immediately put it on my Red Dead playlist.
Oh, excellent. Oh, excellent. Oh, well, I'm glad that this movie provided that RP with an extra bit of soundtrack. That's great, man. Because that's a great playlist.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
an amazing playlist.
something that I found out was so the actress who plays Jane. I was thinking she looks familiar, but
Is that the ex-wife?
yeah. And are you familiar with the German actor Klaus Kinski?
I know the name.
Yeah, well, he's a very famous German actor who a lot of like old westerns, and he also did like Fitzcarraldo, Aguero, the Wrath of God,
Yeah, I haven't seen
which is a film I absolutely
love. I know.
love.
Yeah.
But it's actually his daughter
Oh
who
shit!
plays Jane, and I was like, yeah, because they actually look really, really similar.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because her name's Natasha Kinski. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thought that was
Interesting.
a little bit of interesting trivia there for you.
Oh, yeah, that's cool because she is. I did find out that she is a German actress. Which, by the way, if I didn't look that up, she did American really well. I mean, could you tell, Tad? I mean,
Yeah,
oh, really?
I could tell she wasn't from the States.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. You have more of the trained ear for that then.
What is interesting, if you think about Wim Wenders as a filmmaker, is that our first exposure to him was in German with Wings of Desire, which is a very German film set in the middle of Berlin. And then that's something that I was surprised when I first watched Paris, Texas, is that it's very American. Okay, well, it looks very American, I think the film itself is not exactly very Hollywood at all, but in terms of like the setting, obviously, and the characters, very American. And then also with Perfect Days, which came out this year, that's completely
Very Japanese.
different as well.
Yeah.
Which is quite unusual for a filmmaker, maybe.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, Tad, if I told you that this filmmaker was German, I mean, would you buy that? Because I agree with it feels so American to me, and it feels like like American mythologizing. Not just of characters, but also of Texas itself.
Again, I disagree a little bit. It felt, to be honest, I thought it was maybe like French filmmakers.
You mentioned it felt like French New Wave, right?
Because I believe that people from the opposing country that fantasize about a place can show the place better than the people from the place.
That's such an interesting. Yeah. I love that you
Because
said
people
that.
have a very like glorified idea of what they think Texas is and Los Angeles is, because um, I, being a native of Texas, I loved seeing it in that light, and also being a location manager in LA, I could immediately identify what parts of LA they're in, and it was very cool to see. Um, it was very cool to see, and it felt very practical how they displayed these locations and how they showed the Highland Park home. And, it was very cool to see. Um, I mean, LA really does feel like that. And it was cool to see LA felt in that time as well.
Mm.
So it did feel like a foreign lens showing a better, because, yeah, yeah. Americans, I think, have an idea of what America is, but I think whenever um, folks not from here come here and they show their idea, it's almost a bit clearer vision.
I love that. I love that. I actually heard that exact same sentiment expressed very recently on a film podcast I listened to. I can't tell you which one it is, but that's fascinating. All right, so let's get into pairings. Tad, what would you pair this movie with?
You start me off first,
Given
Steve.
me, you've given me one example.
Yeah, all right. I'll stick. No, I won't. I have a very dry sense of humor, so I'll say immediately I was chuckling when watching because I knew I needed to pair this. So I was chuckling, going like, "Yeah, 51st Dates," but not quite.
Hey, I love 51st Dates.
It's actually a great film.
It's great.
But so I think I'm going to be, probably shocked by y'all's picks because going to be a better pick. So I'm just picking something that is newer but grabs the same tone, very similar vibes, and locales in a sense. And if I watch these two back to back, I would need to have somebody like hold my hand for the rest of the day. But Crazy Heart.
Oh, I know you love that film, don't you?
I do, because it contains a lot of very similar elements of there is a man, first of all, Coen Brothers film, if you haven't seen it. Jeff Bridges plays this old country singer that is a legend in his own right and paves the way for a bunch of folks, but he is going to local bowling alleys to perform, and he just lives kind of out of his car, has a house in Houston, and goes out, meets this woman, loves her child. And you know what? I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but it has a lot of very similar elements. So it would be like seeing a more modern take on a similar essence.
Nice. I love that. I don't know if I ever saw it. I know you've shown me a lot of clips, and I know you love the music in it. I think
I do.
T-Bone Burnett, I think, was one of the songwriters or composers as well. Oh, that's cool. Excellent, man.
And Ryan Bingham as well. You see him a lot in the new Kevin Costner series, whatever that's called. It's very popular.
Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Luke.
I'm like third cousins with that guy. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
What do you got, Luke?
I found this tricky, this film feels really unique, and I didn't want to go with the boring choice of pairing this with just another Wim Wenders movie. But so actually I was really struggling, and then I was looking through Letterboxd, and I don't, if you scroll all the way down, it gives you like similar movies or what it thinks are similar movies. And one of the films it recommended was Wild Strawberries, which is a Ingmar Bergman movie from Swedish movie from 50s, I want to say. And I was like, yeah, that figures. And I just think it's a really, really lovely movie about a man going on a journey, and he kind of sees scenes from his past, and it's a lot about love, and there's a lot about family, and there's a lot about, again, like Paris, Texas, there's a lot about a troubled past, and yeah, I just can really see them playing well together.
Sweet. Okay. I don't think I've even heard of that movie. I've never seen
Yeah,
it.
I'd say it's not Ingmar Bergman. I say it's not one of his more known ones, but it's a really, really lovely movie.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, I decided to pair it with Manchester by the Sea.
Oh, that's a good choice. Yeah.
It feels similar, he's an uncle that has to take care of his his nephew, and lots of similar themes in terms of the backstory and this tragedy happening with this fire. It plays very similar here as well. Also, in this movie in Paris, Texas, when they lay out what happened between them, it's fucking dark. I was like, shit, that went to a place I really didn't expect. But anyway, that's great. Thank you. I want to say thank you so much to both of you. Tad, thank you for coming back. So it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and thank you as well, Luke, for coming on this as well. Tad, all the best to you. Can't wait to get you back on here, and much love to you, brother.
Yeah, whenever you want me, I'll be here.
All right, folks, that's it. I want to say a special thanks to Phoenix Cinema. As always, our music is by Stefan Krieger, and our episodes are edited by Noah Anderson. If you like this podcast, please share, like, rate, and subscribe. I don't think I say that enough. In fact, I don't think I've ever said it. So this is me saying it. It helps a lot and would be much, much appreciated. Okay, if you want to watch a movie, head to the Phoenix Cinema. Luke and I will meet you there, but Tad won't because he lives in LA. Take care, folks.
See ya. Bye-bye.